It's time to talk about One Championship 159 and what the future looks for the fighters involved on the card. 3 bouts in the lead card due to a bunch of fight cancellations. I'll go over my quick thoughts. The first fight was Vladimir Da Silva versus Jin Tae-ho. Vladimir Da Silva was able to use leg kicks to effectively nullify Jin Tae-ho at the guillotine choke at the end of the second round. This marks the first time that Jin Tae-ho has been finished, and it continues Vladimir Da Silva's finishing ways. I think Da Silva should fight Hiroki Tetsuka next. I think that's going to be a very explosive fight and a very fun fight for the fans to watch. As for Jin Tae-ho, I think he should fight the loser of Sebastian Katastan versus Yuri Lapidus. I'm just glad that the welterweight division is starting to get going because it's kind of been stagnant for the last year and a half. Hopefully we can get a title fight later this year. Next up, Murat Gamarov, the former featherweight champion, took on Ariel Sexton. This fight was just a pretty entertaining grappling match between the two. Gamarov was able to use his wrestling to nullify most of Sexton's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu attempts. Gamarov was able to eventually overwhelm him and get the TK. What's next for the former champion? I think he should maybe fight Eddie Alvarez next. I think that would be a pretty solid fight. I think they're both in a similar trajectory. Otherwise, he could fight Zhang Lipeng, who's currently 2-0 with the organization. Ariel Sexton, there's a lot of ways you can go with that. You can have him fight Ruslan. Otherwise, he is a little bit older, so he might be hanging up the gloves after that. And the final bout on the lead card, Sinzamat Klimi took on Liam Nolan in a lightweight Muay Thai contest. The first round was rather back and forth, but then right off of the bat in the second round, Sinzamat landed a pretty solid left hand and knocked out Liam Nolan clean. I would like to see Sinzamat fight for the inaugural one lightweight Muay Thai title next. I think Islam Murtazaev is probably the best pick for that because he's already an established name. He is coming off of a loss, though. As for Liam Nolan, I'm guessing we're not going to see him again until early 2023 because he's going to take at least 3 months to recover from that knockout, and I think he has to go back to the WBC to defend his title. Starting off the main card was Danielle Williams taking on Zilong Zhakzhi. This fight was a fast-paced war on the feet between the two men. Zilong had an incredible jab, and he was just like touching up Williams at first. He was a lot faster than Williams was, and Williams had a very hard time finding any combinations. But then as the fight went on, Williams started going to the legs with the leg kicks, and after Zilong took a few of them, it really affected him pretty poorly. And then Williams was able to land an overhand and knock Zilong out. For Williams, it sounds like he wants to go into Muay Thai, and I would love to see him fight Joseph Lassiri next for the title. Otherwise, if Lassiri wants to go for the kickboxing title, maybe he can fight Prajanchai. Both of those matches sound very exciting. As for what's next for Zhakzhi, there's a lot of ways that he can go. He's a very young fighter. I think Robin Catalan might be a good fight to bounce back from, but there's a lot of choices there. Next up, the featherweight Muay Thai contest that was added at the very last minute. Jamal Yusufov taking on Joe Nadawan. Heading into this fight, both of these guys were undefeated in one Super Series, and this was one to watch. This fight was a very entertaining Muay Thai contest. Both of these guys just traded with one another. They both took really heavy shots, and I was surprised that there wasn't a knockdown sooner. The only knockdown that happened was in the end of the second round when Smoke and Joe got knocked down. It seemed enough to get the decision, and Yusupov was asking for a title shot after that. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be getting it because it sounds like Tawanchai is going to be fighting for the title. And then after that, probably Superbone will be fighting, assuming he defends his title against Alizov correctly. So he might not be fighting again for a title for at least a year. But a fight I would like to see him in would be against Sidichai or Jimmy Vernut. As for Smoke and Joe Nadawan, I would love to see him fight Nicholas Larson. I think that's a pretty exciting fight. Otherwise, he can go back to kickboxing. There's a lot of options over there as well. After that, there was a strawweight kickboxing match between Zhang Piemen and Ashnalbek Zakirov. This one just makes me wish that there was more strawweight Muay Thai and kickboxing fights in one, because it was really fun to watch. These guys were very fast. There was a lot of high output, and it was just really entertaining from bell to bell. Zakirov was landing at a higher clip, but Piemen was landing with more power. It was a very close fight. Eventually, Piemen got the decision, though. I would love to see these two run it back someday. Hopefully it's 5 rounds for the strawweight kickboxing title. PMang hits a no-go. He should probably be fighting for the title, for the vacant title next, whether that's against Joseph Lasiri, Daniel Williams, or someone else. Sakirov, I think the best course of action might be for him to go back into Muay Thai and fight someone over there. Next up in the bantamweight Muay Thai fight, as Muay Thai took on Vladimir Kuzmin. Following those 6 pretty entertaining fights, it was going to be hard to live up to the expectations, and this one wasn't necessarily a bad fight. It was just a little slower, a lot more technical. Kuzmin controlled that range for the first round with some push kicks. Muay Thai was able to come back in the second and third, and was able to get a split decision on the scorecards. It wasn't the best fight on the card, definitely, but it's understandable why Muay Thai fight a little bit more reserved, considering he got a pretty bad knockout last time against Liam Harrison. What's next for Muay Thai? I would love to see him fight someone in the top 5, whether that be Aliverdi, Ramazanov, or Rodolek. As for what's next for the Russian, I would say have him fight Kuladam, the former featherweight title challenger. I think that would also be an entertaining contest. Next, in the co-main event, it's Janet Todd versus Laura Fernandez for the interim 1 Muay Thai atomweight title. The first 2 rounds were a little bit more of a filling out process. Todd was landing the slightly better strikes. In the third and fourth, Laura Fernandez started to turn it on, and it just made me realize kind of how big she was for the division. I think she could easily go up to strawweight, and I think she's actually bigger than some of the strawweights in the Muay Thai division. It was clear that the 5th round was going to decide this contest, and Janet Thai was able to come out and have easily the best round of the fight for her. She hurt Laura Fernandez very early, and she just did not let up. It went to the decision, and Janet Todd won on all 3 judges' scorecards. She's now the interim Muay Thai champion. Just a really good moment for Janet Todd. She's worked a lot for this sport and has kind of held the women's atomweight and kickboxing titles. She's held those divisions alive for the last couple of years, especially since Stamp has left to go do MMA. As for what's next for her, I think she should fight Anissa Mixon. Not only is that going to give Rodriguez some time to recover from having a child be born, which is still less than a year off from that, but I think Anissa has definitely won her shot at the title, and I think they should probably do that sometime in November for the kickboxing title. For Laura, I would honestly prefer if she went up to strawweight and did Muay Thai or kickboxing up there. But if she does decide to stay down at atomweight, maybe have her fight Christina Moraes or someone else, and then give her a title shot for the kickboxing title, just seeing as that division does not have a lot of name value to it. And finally, in the main event, we have Ridder Vs taking on Vitaly Bigdash for the 1 middleweight title. This fight started off pretty fast-paced. Ridder just rushed Bigdash, and Bigdash almost caught him with a big overhand right, which looked pretty scary. Like if it connected, it could have knocked RDR out. But after that, RDR clinched with Bigdash, and Bigdash was actually able to get a really tight guillotine choke on RDR. And then he adjusted it and looked even tighter. I was really surprised to see that RDR was able to get out of that. He eventually did, landed some good ground and pound, and was able to sink in an inverted triangle choke to choke out the former champion and retain his belt. Incredible performance by RDR. He's completely cleared out the division. I think the really only option left for him is to go up to heavyweight and fight the winner of Arjun Bular versus Anatoly Molenkai. As for Bigdash, there's not a whole lot to do left in the middleweight division, so maybe he could have a rematch with Leandro. Overall, 159 was a very excellent card. It unfortunately lost a few pretty solid matches right before the card started, but it's just kind of what it is with the combat sports world. I can't wait to see 160. Thank you for watching my video. This is Shattered Tibia Productions. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like and even a comment telling me happy event, and stay subscribed if you want to see more content from Shattered Tibia Productions.